Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everyone. Hey, wait, why am I not hearing the music again? I feel like every time we come in here, I'm like, I got things screwed up. There we go. Better. Well, it is Monday. It looks like we could have a good week ahead of us, at least in terms of action, because we already got treasuries moving. Let's come over to the charts here. Okay, so on Friday, after that news, big move down on the non-farms number, but it didn't really go much further after that. It just kind of centered around typical kind of a Friday thing. But here in Monday, I don't know what I was about to say there, but we're down. And it looks like we're headed back for at least 3.5 today. We're a little bit further and we get 3.5. So then we come over to the S&P 500, and well, they took a big hit off of the initial news, but then rallied the rest of the day. So I guess Apple earnings trumps everything else. I don't know, but that's where equities are. I'm a little bit concerned about the breadth of the market and a couple of other things, and I'm on the lookout for a big fall in the S&P 500. I am really skeptical about their ability to regain 4,200 and stay above that. All right. And then we come to oil. Oil also rebounding here. I mean, oil earlier in the week had a really doozy big down. I mean, I don't know. I can't explain how hard it was. At the time, it was like, well, you know, there's reasons, like there's problems with the global economy and everything, but for it to fall that hard was really something else, right? Gold and silver also got hit on that Friday news. And then we got copper. Copper maybe actually trying to dig itself out of the hole here. We'll see. Let's come over to some currencies. Here's the dollar. The dollar still just kind of trudging along in the 101 area. And Bitcoin having a bit of a sell this morning. Reports that there are blockchain congestion, a lot of money going out onto the blockchain, coming out of the exchanges, and price falling down. As that happens, I'm not going to say as a result, but as that happens, that's what we're seeing. So let's see over here. I think I was about to say, I was like, I think my lighting is messed up. There we go. Okay, so now over here, I need to, yeah, there we go. Okay, so for some reason, Jigsaw's Journalytics is having a little bit of trouble this morning, and it's not giving me access to the sim accounts. I don't want to accidentally click something and get into a position, so I'm just going to disable it for now. Okay, so let's check Discord first. Liz has got a question about Trade Day. I think maybe I've heard of them. Let's see here. I think I've spoken to them before. I don't know. Let me check my email. See if I've ever had a conversation with them before. Because sometimes I've spoken to so many different funded trader programs before, and like I get them all mixed up and stuff. No. By the way, with Discord, I went ahead and created a forum where we have a guided discussion section. So there, the administrators are able to post topics, and then you can comment in the replies. So I would encourage you guys to go and answer those questions. So right now we just have one about rate cut in 2023, but we will create other ones about major questions in the market. And also, I think at some point we'll start talking about flow. So once we start getting, you know, a lot of activity in there, we'll start using those to discuss what flows we are expecting to see that day. So go ahead and check that out. Good morning, Uzi. Let's see here. And my allergies are still, it's still, you know, get clogged up in the morning. Okay, so next thing I usually do is see how many people my bot banned. 2, 3. Oh. Four. It's pretty good. Oh, I didn't realize that the Miami Grand Prix was last weekend. I wonder how that went. Did you hear anything about that, Uzi? I guess you're far away from Miami, but surely people in Florida were talking about it, yeah? Let's see here. Warren Buffett on banking. The American public is probably as confused as ever about banking, and that has consequences. Nope, not in your wheelhouse. So I tell you something that's kind of interesting to me about this, the whole banking crisis thing. You know, we've had a couple of times here where we're like, so should I pull my money out of the banks? Well, and at the time I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know I don't think that, you know, any of these other banks are necessarily at risk of going under anytime soon, but I don't really know what's going on. And I have a very good read on, like, I'm not a banking insider, you know, but, actually thinking about it some more, you know, regular person shouldn't have anything to worry about. If your bank were to go under, FDIC would come in, your deposits would be insured, and you should be fine. You shouldn't have any problems getting access to your money or anything like that. It's the bigger players that have trouble, and basically what is happening is the big corporations are basically deciding to manage the money themselves. Like you could keep it in a bank, and the bank will give you you know, an interest rate on it that will be equal to, you know, like what you would get out at the market from buying treasuries or whatever the deal is, right? And instead they're putting it into like a money market account, or they're buying a bunch of securities themselves. And like, I'm even seeing content from like these uber rich guys, or like uber rich creators talking about doing this themselves, like talking about buying treasury spreads and like rolling them over every year and stuff like that. I was like, you know, regular guy like me, oh, that sounds like fun to me. I want to see how that works. I want to get some experience on doing that. But like your regular rich guy ain't got time for that. That's like, that's like way too involved for what. Why would you be doing it all yourself? But it seems to me like what has happened is the uber rich have decided that their money is not safe in the bank. They're not protected. And so they're just pulling it out of the banks. And at which point you kind of have to wonder, what are you actually getting from the bank? And so that is an additional question here on top of all of these other problems for the regional banks that I think that we really have to consider. Do the banks actually provide a lot of value for the average person? I mean, of course, their ability to give loans, that's something that only they can do and is a needed thing. So that's why we don't want the regional banks to go under because of that, right? But like your average person, they're just putting deposits in there, right? You're giving them your deposits and then they're going out and doing stuff with it, and you're not really getting anything in return. Like, I mean, for most accounts, the interest rate that you're getting is stupid anyways, right? And then for the amount of money that the average person is putting in there anyways, like, doesn't even matter, right? So, if it's, I don't know, it's just like that the rich, the ones that would actually like be able to, it would actually have like some need of the banking services, or I would think that the rich would get more from the banking services from it, but that appears to be not the case. What do you think about the new Apple savings account, 4.5? Yeah, well, so there's a lot of places that are doing that. My understanding is that their banking partner is still Goldman Sachs. So basically, like, Apple got together with Goldman Sachs to do the Marcus thing, and now they're just doing one that's Apple branded. So I don't think there's anything different from it from like the Marcus account. It's just now it's Apple branded. So what they're doing is they're like slowly rolling out different products to different segments to get as many people involved as possible. But the problem with that one has been that Goldman has taken some pretty big losses on that whole deal, right? That the segment of people that want to get debt from Apple aren't the best repayers, which actually makes perfect sense to me, because the Apple is always treated as like this luxury brand sort of a thing. But the reality is that they're like more a fashion brand than anything. It's a fashion brand built around computers is what it is. And the people that are most attracted to that are not going to be frugal people that are really smart with their money, right? So maybe in a expanding economy, that'll work out really well for them then. But right now, that's kind of a rough one. It was rough for Goldman, at least. Now, I don't know how it will go, how Apple will fare off of it. Apple's got to do something though, because they are just not innovating, and I really, of course they make money because they're like the most popular stock and everything, but like they generate like massive cash flow, but they're not really innovating anymore, and I think eventually that's going to be a problem that catches up with them. The other side of this is how things would go politically, right? I guess my larger point here is that, like, I wouldn't be buying regional bank stocks. I'm not buying regional bank stocks. I guess that's my point, as I see a lot of problems for regional banks regional banks in the future. Regulations are only going to get more strict. It's only going to get harder for them. Move the microphone up a little bit. Force me to stand up straight. Feeling like, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm like my peak fitness, even though I've been working really hard. And I guess it's because I haven't been like really lifting the weights, and I really want to be lifting the weights, but I've been doing yard work. Need to get this yard work done. I think I've got another week or two left of yard work, and then we can get back to our usual slate of things. But we made some good progress. Anyways, so we were scrolling through Twitter, see if we got anything interesting on Twitter here. Wow. So here they've got a, so the size of the bubble is the market capitalization, and the y-axis is the percentage return. I'm guessing their stock, from their stock. So New York Community Bank Corp is the biggest winner, up 10%. But then so many more of these other ones. Yeah, Zions is one of the hardest hit. See, Zions is kind of the, I'm really interested in this. I guess it's just because it's my regional bank. But Zions is like right on the edge there. There's like Zions, and I don't know what this, oh, I think Zions is actually the bigger one there. I think that one's Heartbone Customers Corp. I think Zions is that slightly larger one there. But you see how it's just like right on the edge of all of the others, you know? So like, I'm concerned that like if we have like a full-blown crisis and a bunch of these other banks start going under, like Zions is the last one to go under. And then once Utah has been screwed over, then the government can come in and be like, okay, actually, let's reform the FDIC. I think I heard you saying that Zions has a lot of mortgage assets. Well, I think that they do have a decent amount of corporate real estate, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, Zions, based on what we know right now, should be safe. But like, it's on the edge, and things keep pushing, you know? I don't know. Like, the whole thing was we had like those tremors kind of late last week, and then it just kind of blew over and everybody's already forgotten about it. So was it actually like a big deal or not? I don't know. I can't tell. Who can say? I sure think it would be a bad thing for Utah though if Zions Bank went under, man. I don't know what would happen. That would be really weird, because so many small businesses have their money in Zions and would have to move it. That would be pretty traumatizing for the people of Utah. Don't you think? Artificial intelligence could pose a more urgent threat to humanity than climate change, AI pioneer Geoffrey Hinton told Reuters. Okay, so this one is actually an interesting one, is that like, so like ChatGPT and all of these other applications, they don't really have like safeguards built around them. And now people are doing like auto GPT, right? And you can even be like, okay, give auto GPT control to like run scripts on my system and stuff. And then the robot will actually go out and like figure out how to make Python scripts to do certain things that to accomplish its goal and stuff. There's like no safeguards on it whatsoever. So if a robot suddenly went awry, or somebody engineered a prompt that was able to get through, and which the people have done, it's just no, I haven't seen anybody do it to the point where like it was damaging to OpenAI or whatever. But yeah, they could do stuff. I don't think that it would be like a real threat to humanity. I think it would be more like an annoyance. You know what I mean? So I saw this thing yesterday that certain YouTube channels were being demonetized or taken down because YouTube claims that they were taking advantage of view botting. And I'm like thinking here with all this AI stuff and everything, like, you know, AIs could just go awry and do crazy things, you know. Who do you think would buy it if it goes under? JP Morgan, probably. That bothers me more than anything right now. The way that First Republic went down, that they allowed it to go under first so that the FDIC could pick up all of the bad assets and then JP Morgan could buy the good assets. That's so messed up. And I think it speaks to some real problems about how are you going to get anybody to give you funding to try and bridge the gap? You know, it just makes any individual bank going under that much more likely, because all of the people that would be there to help them are just going to say, oh yeah, well, we want you to fail first so we can buy all your shit. So dumb. I can't believe that they allowed that. Like, really, they negotiated that. The people on the government side really got suckered, man. I don't know. Maybe it would. Maybe people in the industry won't see it that way, but sure seems like a problem to me. What Texas bill would train third graders to use battlefield tourniquets? Okay. Why not? I guess. Why not? I mean, that was something that I was taught as a child, so not in school, but in Scouts, that was something we were taught. So why can't they put it in the school? Oh yeah, here's another interesting news story. As the report is Tucker is getting ready to launch a Fox News competitor and is, quote, preparing for war. So I'm still hearing stuff about that he's under contract and that he would have to negotiate with them to get out of his contract before 2025, I think it was. But him starting his own network, that's interesting. I don't know. The thing is that every person that runs into this situation seem to try and start their own thing. I really think that she kind of got to like if that's what Tucker's gonna do, he's gonna have to get buy-in from another major news anchor. Like, he's gonna have to convince Kelly to get on it or something like that, you know, for that one to work. It's funny, Forex Live is saying the USD JPY battle is on. But then I look over at the Japanese yen and it's like, well, the Japanese yen had a pretty decent like fall and then reverse back up. And the treasuries followed the fall, but they didn't reverse back up. So make of that one what you will. No, Binance says that all pending BTC withdrawal transactions have now been processed. That was 18 minutes ago. Kind of sitting here being like, today's going to be an extra slow day, but I think so. I finally ran into the ADHD medication shortage yesterday because like I got a text that, it'll be filled up, and so I thought that meant it was filled, but I didn't read the text message and went over and they're like, oh no, we don't have it. We don't know when we'll get it. You have to, basically people are calling in every day. Like, oh no. Oh no. And so without the medication, I am probably less focused and like, to me, it feels like, this has been a long, slow first 30 minutes, but it's only been 30 minutes. It's nothing. It's nothing. Now here's somebody else saying, when they tell you it's only a handful of companies holding up the market, they are lying to you. Here's some of America's biggest and most important stocks, all of which are less than 5% from new 52-week highs. No. At the market breadth, though, as an indication, but is a quantifiable indicator, is at record lows. So I think that this guy doesn't understand what they're talking about. That doesn't guarantee that it's going to move down. Historically, that's what happens, but it is pretty slow though. Yeah, well, it is slow. I'm just saying that normally I would be able to be, deal with this amount of slowness and be fine. Although I must say, when I came in here this morning and I saw the decline here in the treasuries, I thought, well, maybe it's going to be a day. Maybe it's going to be one of those days. And then there's just like absolutely no activity. So I'm like, okay, I guess it's not. I guess it's not that day. Right? Oh, now this is an interesting chart. So here is a chart of the federal funds rate. And every time that there's a blue vertical line here is when the Fed, quote unquote, pauses. And almost every time that pause is like the peak for the funds rate and they end up reducing rates. Except for in the 80s, like it came back down and then it came back with vengeance, which is the scenario that they've been trying so hard to avoid. And there was a time where they kept it there for quite some time. But it doesn't look like there's really, well, except for in the 60s. The 60s, they did a pause and then, well, they came back just a few. They came back like 1, 2, 50 basis points. Held it for a while and then it came back up. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's a chart that I think you're going to start seeing more of. Doesn't have that chart though. Doesn't have like the S&P on top of it, but it seems to be suggesting that you buy equities here. Well, that's about all we have to read about on there. No. Anheuser-Busch CEO blames Bud Light boycott on social media misinformation. Nah, I think that I think the way that it should work is that if you make the mistake, then you're done for. Because you don't want companies to think that they can like, oh, well, we'll take the risk, and then if it doesn't work out for us, we'll just backtrack, right? Then lots of people will do it, right? So for the people that are boycotting to try and punish Bud Light, I say that no matter what Bud Light says at this point, you should just stick with your boycott. If you want your future boycotts to be successful, right? Because if Anheuser-Busch is able to survive this, then people will like brush it off and be like, oh yeah, no, we can still, corporations can still do basically whatever they want, and you idiots will keep buying the stuff, right? You gotta hit at that one. It needs to be like in the future, okay? Company does something that we all disagree with, okay, or that conservatives disagree with, let's say, okay? We're like, okay, let's not buy their product anymore. And then we'll be like, oh, boycotts don't do anything. And then we'll be like, oh yeah, but what about Anheuser-Busch? Like they never recovered from that. And then people will be like, oh yeah, okay. And then they boycott it, and whatever company it is would be afraid of that boycott, right? But if you, it's funny. So like, of course, that's why Anheuser-Busch and the media and large corporations are probably going to do everything they can to try and salvage their reputation. But that's, again, I'm saying, like, if you're the boycotters, yeah, you just stick with the boycott no matter what now at this point. The individual brand might be screwed, but the company isn't. Well, it doesn't seem to have affected their stock too much, has it? So I don't know where all of their sales are coming from. They seem to be coming from other things, I guess. Oh, I'm actually reading the story. It's like even worse. Instead of taking the blame for the company's catastrophic attempt to virtue signal, even if it means alienating the vast majority of its clients, Ducaris instead blamed online misinformation and confusion, including reports that Mulvaney's Bud Light can is a production can, and every can would be like the one that was in that post. I don't think that people boycotting Bud Light care at all about that. They only care that you were given doing a sponsorship with this guy. Oh my gosh. You know what was one that I read about the other day that actually made me like genuinely mad? Like it is starting to get to the point. Like before it was like, this is crazy, like woke stuff. I don't like this woke stuff. Yeah, you know, I don't think that this is good for society, right? But now I'm starting to see things that like genuinely upset me. And where it's starting to genuinely upset me is where I can see them doing things that objectively hurt women. So, for instance, Nike had also did a sponsorship with Dylan Mulvaney. He's not even an athlete. So they're giving this guy who's not even an athlete money. Meanwhile, there's other women that were athletes for Nike, and then when they got pregnant, Nike basically like killed their sponsorship or like reduced their sponsorship to basically nothing. So they're giving this guy this huge sponsorship, and then on the other side, they're treating real women like trash. Makes me mad. This is the one I get to be neutral on because I don't drink. I don't drink either, so it's like nothing I can do. Seth drinking more water is not going to affect Bud Light at all. Nope. in the age of the male feminist, male benefits have always been. Okay, I'm not sure what you're getting at there, but no, like this is what upsets me about the woke movement is that the things that they're doing objectively hurt the people that they're claiming to help. Right? I give you another example. This whole thing about reparations in California is not going to help anybody. Okay. If you start giving people, if you actually give them the reparations, okay, first thing is I guarantee you that there's going to be inflation from it. That the housing prices in California are going to go up even higher, which is just like it's already super crazy, right? And then not to mention all of the other problems that you're going to get with your state's economy and debts, and you know, it'll be a real mess. It'll be a real mess, and it's not going to help anybody, right? Is that they say like you can give a person a fish or you can teach a person to fish and they'll eat for a lifetime? Like that's the way that you got to take it. Is that if you're giving people money and that money is not coming from like, you know, they've already made productivity increases and things like that, then what will happen is the economy will not be able to handle it, and the result will always just be inflation. So like you're not actually helping those people. You're just making them more dependent on the government and less likely in the future to be able to sustain themselves in their own economies. Because what you really got to do, if you really want to help minorities in the United States, you need to, there are two things that we should be promoting. And number one is anything that decreases violence in those areas. Okay, because some of those worst areas are just, oh my gosh, the gang violence is just unreal in some of those areas, right? You're never going to get any real economic growth in an area that has gang violence like that. So that's the first thing, is that you got to clamp down on so all this stuff about like, you know, defund the police and everything, objectively hurting minority communities. You gotta get rid of the violence. And then you need to encourage investment so that more people start small businesses in those areas and grow the economy. And then you grow the economy, and that's how you dig out of a hole like that. And the things that they're doing, the exact opposite. Won't help them. You ever notice how it ain't the other way around? Well, I don't know. It could be happening that there are trans men joining male sports and we just don't hear about or care about it. But of course, I don't think anybody would care, because I don't think that male trans athletes really harm the sport at all, right? But when basically every male women trans athlete that comes in ends up like winning the competition, that objectively hurts female athletes, right? Yeah, they're hurting women. Oh yeah, like the female boxer who gave her opponent a concussion. Yeah. Regarding California reparations, it honestly seems like someone is just trying to destabilize the whole community and start outright conflict. Maybe. I mean, then we're starting to get into conspiracy theory territory again, right? Because almost all of these things that we're talking about, you can trace back to George Soros's Open Foundation has been like contributing funds to causes like this, to promote transgender things, to promote reparations. And the one that's the worst, I think, is putting district attorneys in place that like don't pursue the law. Like they selectively enforce the law, and so it's like, well, if it's a minority, we're going to cut them some slack and we're not going to prosecute them. And this is how you get this situation like in New York, where there's a guy on the subway that's been arrested literally 40 times for being violent, and eventually he got out of control one time on the subway, and a a passenger subdued him and that ended up killing him. That's how you get that, right? Is that George Soros's intention? I mean, I don't think it is, but I'm not a mind reader. How could you possibly say? But there's no questioning what the end result is, right? We can see what the end result is. But it does seem to be destabilization. And another thing is that there are some actors out there that I do think that their intention is to destabilize. I mean, I don't know if that's George Soros's intention. I mean, I do think on some level George Soros really believes his woke ideology and thinks that it would be ultimately a good thing. I don't completely buy into this idea that he thinks that he's going to destabilize the Western world and then become rich from it, because I would think that he would realize that doing this, destabilizing the Western world would destroy his own wealth as well. But I think that, for instance, there is social media manipulation by China that and by Russia that is absolutely intended to do that sort of a thing. Yes. Why do normal working people who would never? Well, because that's just their ideology, man. The thing that they won't let you say, but it's obvious to anybody that's watching this, is that this woke ideology is ultimately being driven behind the scenes by communism, and the communists don't know how to build things. Communism is all about taking down the current society first, right? This is what always happens with communism, is they have to put all of this effort into how do we undermine and destroy the current system. We need to find all of these little things in capitalism that we can kind of exaggerate to try and collapse the whole system. And then once they actually get what they want, then they don't know what to do with it, essentially, is what happens, right? And of course, so this is like what I was saying the other day about why do woke films always suck? Well, because the ideology makes you a bad storyteller. Because the ideology is basically always about undermining the current power structure, right? Like where is I give you a good example of this. Star Wars, okay? So like in Star Wars, with the sequel trilogy, in the sequel trilogy, the New Republic is basically already fallen and fractured apart, and there's a fascist regime out there that they're fighting against, and then the people that are fighting against the fascist regime get completely destroyed. Okay, and then at the end, apparently they organize the Cantina fleet, but like that's like a one-time thing. What happens after that? Right? Why is there no portrayal of the beginning of a new republic and putting that government together and putting together a successful and young fledgling republic that is, right? It never happens. Why? Because they don't know what to do. Because every time that they get what they want, it ends up being a complete effing disaster, right? I, for one, am terrified living in a society ruled by people who relate stuff to Disney movies. Well, listen, I'm just telling you, okay? The Disney is probably the easiest example of showing how the woke ideology comes down, right? And I think it's kind of important. You want to kind of understand the way that the politics are going to go. Kind of understanding what the people at the extremes are thinking and how they come to their conclusions and stuff can be really useful, right? So in this instance, if you want to understand the left, there's two things. One is that you have to understand that the far left is really being driven by communism. And then the second side is that let's call it the moderate left, although I wouldn't even necessarily call it the moderate left, but there's another section of the left that is basically, these are the kids that are mad that their parents wouldn't let them have sex in high school. Okay. And that is the kind of the things that drive the Democrat Party for the most part. Right. So everything that they come up with because of this, it's this Marxist ideology, basically comes down to it's never, okay, let's help these people build their own thing. It always has to be, we have to tear down the existing power structure and give what those rich people had to the underclass. It's always in that manner, right? And what you're finding now, and the big tell that you're seeing now is that one of the groups that they've championed the most as being like, you know, a historically oppressed group, women, they are completely willing to sacrifice women on the altar of wokeness too. That's what's going on, right? So I saw this one video from a guy on TikTok. He was like, well, I don't really care about sports. So like, if the result of this is that we don't have women's sports anymore, then okay, whatever. Like, okay, so because you don't care about it, then that means that it doesn't matter if something that women care about gets destroyed. Gotcha. Right. And be careful, women, because women, those single women voters, by and large, voting Democrat. I'm just telling you, look at it. Democrats are willing to screw you over to get their Marxist vision. These far leftists, they don't actually care about you. You are just a pawn to try and get them more power. Right? People have to be convinced to the right? Maybe. I mean, that's certainly not the way that the left thinks it, right? The left thinks that everybody is brought up being conservative, and then they have to be convinced by the school system and whatever to be leftist, right? Even though the young, like, almost... let me put it this way. The youth overwhelmingly vote Democrat, but the youth are not overwhelmingly woke, for instance. When you actually start to get into the ideology and some of these things, then most people say, oh no, I don't agree with that. Like, most people do not agree with doing reparations, for instance, right? It's just that most young voters are never forced to confront that. And the few that do, those are the ones that end up being red-pilled and convinced to be conservative, right? But the result is absolute, whether it's the intention or not, the result is absolutely going to be destabilization in there. I mean, you're already seeing it play out, right? And the question is just, will the people in those areas realize it before it's too late? Or are those towns all going to get destroyed too? Well, by the way, here on the treasuries, I mean, we have moved 20 ticks now. It's been like a slow mover, but it's certainly all one way, right? In fact, this flow is overwhelmingly short, which was kind of the flow that I was expecting to see in the first place. Seeing 49.67 there kind of doesn't make me want to like get in a position, but with the kind of flow that we're seeing, you're unlikely to get much of a pullback, so I suppose you might as well. I wonder if well, what would I have to do here? I don't know of anything to reset the journalytics. Maybe if I do that. I may have to like close and restart it. Every normally politically detached person you know is a Democrat. Well, I feel like also so a lot of people blame the school system. I don't know if I understand what's going on in the school system so much to drive people to do something like that. But I think it's probably larger than just the school system. It seems like that what Democrats have done is they've kind of created this social regime where they've been able to convince everybody that like if you're a good person, you're a Democrat, right? Like one of the arguments they always make that's anti-conservative is that like, well, you're saying that you're using logic, but like you have no empathy. Listen, empathy is just in politics, empathy is just a tool that you use to convince people to act against their best interest. That's what that is, right? Because in every instance where they're talking about empathy, it's not actually empathetic. It's actually is just helping them politically. Like they don't care about the immigrants that come over here. If they cared about the immigrants, they would actually change that system, because basically all you're doing is importing slaves, practically slaves, right? And not to mention like the humanitarian crisis and everything that's all causing. Although it sounds like that maybe Joe Biden's administration is wising up a little bit. Oh, I still can't see journalytics. That's interesting. I have no problem getting in on the website. You need to check over here on their chat. Okay, yeah, I am not the only one. Okay, well, we just have to look at it. There's already a lot has traded at 07.5 though. Good morning, Walter. See, the way that I think about it is like basically I think a lot of this comes down to like a lot of the easy problems have been solved, right? And a lot of people don't want to dig deeper into issues, right? So they're just reading things at surface level. And if you just read things at surface level, then it will seem like the left is the good guys or whatever the deal is, right? But once you actually get down into like the mechanics of policy and everything else like that, you realize that the things that they're promoting just aren't effective and don't work and are the woke stuff is objectively harmful, right? But most people aren't your average low information voters never going to take it that far. They're never going to investigate it that far. Oh yeah, where have you been, Walter? It's been a week or two, hasn't it? I'm really interested to see how this ends up resolving at 07.5. I mean, I kind of have the feeling that it's just going to continue trending down all morning. but that has been so much that has been absorbed there. Seems like some sort of a reversal would make sense, but probably if you take a trade there, you're gonna get screwed either way, right? Or I should say, if you were to take a trade at 07.5, whether you go long or short, it's probably going to be a difficult one to hang on to. Both Trump and DeSantis beat Biden in ABC Washington Post poll as Joe's approval hits record low. That's interesting. Okay, so let's try and look deeper into this poll and make sure that they're presenting it accurately. Well, I got two links here at the beginning. That always kind of makes me a little bit suspicious. Poll. New poll. Here we go. Do you find that treasuries have less noise than the ES? Yes. Well, I mean, there is a lot of noise everywhere, right? But the noise in the treasury tends to be more about what you see going on with the bids and offers on the most inside bid, for instance, right? You know, in treasuries, that, you know, bid declining or increasing or whatever is probably equivalent to the ups and downs that you see in the E-mini on, you know, an interbar basis that, you know, there's just like lots of noise over there, right? But over here, when price actually changes, usually it takes something meaningful for price to change and for there to be a swing over in the treasuries. So it's a lot easier for you to sort out what is actually signal over here in the treasuries, right? Plus, they're just so trendy. Like when there's an imbalance, there's an imbalance, and it'll just keep moving and moving and moving. So here this morning, we've had a pretty decent imbalance of orders selling in the 10-year in ZN. Okay, so I'm reading this survey. I'll make it a little bit bigger here. First thing that I see is that when you look down the tabs, there's only about 10 people for each age group. So 800 interviews overall. Wait, if there's 800 overall, then how come there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13? Why is there only 130 listed here? 80% registered voter. So it's registered voter, not likely voter. Okay. Approve, disapprove is about what you would expect. hate it when it's like that, like it doesn't completely load it. Approve of Joe Biden. Oh, is this a continuing? Okay. Doesn't look like it's a continuing survey, but like they do ask this same set of questions every month, so that's helpful. This is not a good idea to blame and humiliate innocent people for something that happened decades ago that they did not do anything wrong. Well, it's, I mean, I kind of I don't think that you even have to touch that argument. Like, the thing is that giving one segment of people like literally millions of dollars at the expense of another group of people is going to be objectively bad for your economy, especially when the amount of money that you're talking about giving them is like money that the government doesn't have, right? Like the economic damage that it's going to do to both California's balance sheet and inflation and all of these other things is going to hurt the people that it's intended to help, right? I mean, I don't know if this can even get to like the implementation phase. I'm quite shocked that they like ratified it, right? I'm quite shocked that they even ratified it, because how are they actually going to put this into practice is going to be funny to watch them try. Oh, hey, look, they traded 07. Yeah. We'll see if they continue through. It sure looks like the treasuries are in a selling mood today. I don't know if it's gonna let up. I'm concerned enough about it at this location that I'm a little hesitant about taking a trade at like hitting into 07, but this is the first time that they are polling about the MAGA movement. Very positive 13%, somewhat positive 11%, somewhat negative 8%, and very negative 37%. Black Lives Matter, very positive 22%, very negative 29%, somewhat positive 16%, somewhat negative 11%. It's a lot more in that neutral camp though. But Black Lives Matters, total positive 38%, total negative 40%. Joe Biden, total positive 38%, total negative 48%. So there's a portion of people, there's about 8% that are negative about Joe Biden, but they aren't sure about Black Lives Matter. So that kind of gives you a little bit of insight into what people are paying attention to, right? Black Lives Matter is kind of like, you haven't heard much about them lately, right? Okay. Ask if Republican primary voter. Who is your choice for president? Well, that's interesting that they don't have, oh, they do with, okay, Nikki Haley. First choice, 3%. Second choice, 14%. Mike Pence, first choice 6%, second choice 13%. It's interesting that Mike Pence beats out Nikki Haley. When I first heard that she was announcing and everything, I thought, well, with the way that this goes and everything, it's probably going to end up being Nikki Haley versus like whoever is the winner of Trump versus DeSantis. But then Nikki Haley came out and started attacking Ron DeSantis over the Disneyland thing, which Donald Trump has also been doing. So this is really, really bizarre that the attacks that they've been using that they're attacking Ron DeSantis from the left. And when Nikki Haley started doing that, it was like, oh, okay, so you don't actually want to be president. You want Donald Trump to select you as his vice president, which I'm not so sure he would do. I thought that he kind of was very unhappy with her. and how she performed as whatever it was, ambassador to the UN or whatever. But Ron DeSantis 31% and Donald Trump 46% in that one. But when you combine them, when you take them first choice, second choice, it's Trump DeSantis. So there was a little bit of further downside, but like, look, they're getting sucked into the 07.5. Okay, well, we are around the open of the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 is selling off initially here this morning. So, you know what? Something I forgot to mention. So, when I was reading Bloomberg this morning, they were noting that the futures data was showing the Treasury futures like record shorts again. So we saw some really powerful flows to the long side last week, kind of suggesting that some of that was indeed like that short covering that we were talking about. But where does that put us now? How much of that short covering happened, and did they just come in and re-short it again? Because that's kind of what it's feeling like this morning, is that they're getting in there and they're just chomping at the bit to get short the treasuries again. Man, 70% Joe Biden should not run for president. 60% Donald Trump should not run for that. That's so crazy. Is Joe Biden's age a minor, major, or not a reason why you think he should not run? 34% a major reason. 15% a minor reason. Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is an important question that they didn't mention in the headlines. If Joe Biden runs for re-election as the Democratic candidate, will you definitely vote for Biden in that election? Probably vote for Biden, probably vote for the Republican candidate, or definitely vote for the Republican candidate. Okay. 21% definitely vote for Biden. 20% probably vote for Biden. 8% probably vote for the Republican candidate. And 39% definitely vote for the Republican candidate. And that was not like an optional, like some of these are like, okay, if they say this, then you ask them this as well. So that seems like that's just like people overall. So it kind of sounds to me like choosing to try and force Joe Biden again a second time is a major is going to be a major problem for Democrats. That that the Democrats are looking like they're going to lose the election. You know what, these kinds of polls that are so early, they're not really very indicative of what happens in the long run, okay? But that's largely because so much happens, okay? But to see that, you know, to start at such a disadvantage that it's that people just don't like Joe Biden, that they regret having Joe Biden, tells you a lot about how this next election is likely to go, right? Okay. Ask if Republican primary voter, given the investigations into Donald Trump, it is important to nominate a candidate who will not be distracted. Someone else should be nominated who can focus only on beating Joe Biden. I think that this one saying, given the investigations into Donald Trump, the framing of that question, it ruins the question. I would want to see, you know, something more like, given Donald Trump's Well, how do you say like Donald Trump is unpopular without seasoning other questions, right? I would want to know what percentage of Republican voters would be saying, we should vote for somebody other than Donald Trump because they have a better chance of beating Joe. Would say something like, we should nominate the candidate with the best chance, and I don't know how you say that, but I think that they could ask a better question there in that one. Because basically what they're saying is Republican voters don't care about the allegations against them, which that's totally what I expect them to say, is the investigations are a politically motivated attempt to stop Donald Trump from becoming president again. Like, I know that for me, I don't necessarily care about that sort of a thing. And, until like there's some sort of a, like he's actually found guilty of something, and then I would actually look at the actual case and be like, okay, like how legitimate was that guilty verdict, right? I'm more concerned that Donald Trump is such a toxic candidate that he just might not be able to win. Are the charges a major, minor? No, okay. Wow, okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is the abortion issue to you? 43%, extremely important. Is it really that important to people? I'm not saying this is what I would have expected to have happened, but if people were like logical and so forth, I would think that the Supreme Court decision should actually make people care less about the issue of abortion, at least as it pertains to federal politics, because what it essentially means is that it is a state level choice. There's no way you're going to get a majority in Congress to do anything on that issue, right? I don't think Biden's decisions on the border or energy needs of the country. Yeah, I mean, so there's this other side of Joe Biden, I think, which is that his policies just haven't been very good. Like, I think that if you start to get in a policy, like if you're in the election and you're doing debates and it gets down into like an actual policy debate, that the Joe Biden would just get eviscerated, because I think that almost every policy that he's brought in has been like bad. Like the major policies have been bad, and like, because basically everything comes down to like virtue signaling for them. And so all you have to do is just point to the ones that didn't work very well, and that ends up being like his whole policy, because all of the other ones that he did that didn't end up going really badly, like, just didn't do anything. They were, again, it's just like virtue signaling, right? There wasn't like a policy that like had a noticeable positive impact in people's lives, right? Yeah. Well, so Uzi, I was reading about this yesterday, because it sounds like that the Biden administration, or not the administration, but the people that he has in charge of the border, think that they are going to be doing so. For instance, they said that they have a policy that basically says if you don't enter in correctly, then we can automatically export you, and then you're not eligible to try and come to the United States for 5 years or something like that. So they think that they have some policies that are going to kind of like tone that back, but I don't think it actually is going to. What it's going to do is just going to ensure that the ports themselves get overwhelmed, right? So yeah, it's going to be, but Yeah, it's enough though to say, like, the point is that they're going to continue doing what they're doing, right? Which is Republicans are going to say, look, there's like a humanitarian crisis on the border, and the Biden administration, the Democrats are going to be like, no, everything's perfectly fine. See, we have all of these policies in place to take care of it, and continue to try and hide the issue. And the question is, what do you do to get people to like pay attention and realize how big of a problem this is? I don't know if this year will do it. Next year it will be even worse, though. Just realize that in the election year it's going to be even worse, right? Because then people are going to be like, oh man, if a Republican wins, then they'll really shut the border off, and so we got to get in before that happens. That's what's going to happen next year, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is where I say this is a little interesting. Although I think that the stats here defy a little bit about my own theories. Let's say always legal 38%, legal most of the time 20%, illegal with exceptions 32, illegal without any exceptions 6. I think that to say that abortion should be legal, always legal, is such an extreme crazy position. I think that if you actually, like, if you seasoned the question correctly and you said, should abortion at 9 months be allowed, even if the mother's health isn't even in danger or anything like that, I think that like 95% of people would say no, that should not be allowed, right? Okay, like the late term abortion thing is like really is quite crazy. And by the way, at that stage, there's no reason to abort the baby. You just have the baby, okay? So there's no reason to have to abort a baby that late. I think that if you actually ask people that, you know, explain that to them, and that most of them wouldn't be that. And that's the place. That's the one way that Republicans maybe have of blunting the abortion issue, is that you have to turn it into, look, we're not talking about, you know, you've been pregnant, like you just barely realize you're pregnant and you terminate it. We're talking about late term abortions. That's disgusting. We should get rid of that. And if Republicans focus on that, they could probably blunt some of the impact from the abortion issue. But as things stand right now, you can see what the polling numbers are. This is a huge, it's a 43% of voters extremely important. 38% say it should always be legal. Okay, so that's only like 5% more that are saying, you know, so it's almost, it's basically these people that believe that it should always be legal are also the ones that think it's super important. Right. So this is a huge problem for Republicans. Here we go. You can see, should it be allowed to protect the life of the mother? 95%. In the case of rape, 92%. In the case of incest, 91%. See, notice that they don't ask the other way around, right? Because I'm telling you, like, the whole conversation is basically tilted to help Democrats, right? Why don't they ask, should abortion be allowed 9 months into pregnancy? Tell you why, because like 90% of people would say no, should not be. Okay, anyways. And then they're asking questions about, okay, did you vote for Trump? Demographics. Cool. Well, I think there was a couple of people out there that thought that like Joe Biden was kind of like set to win this anyways, sort of a thing. And I think that poll should be a pretty good poll for people to look at to kind of see what the current state of the race actually is, right? That Joe Biden is incredibly unpopular, and therefore Republicans have a very, very good chance, assuming that they don't do something stupid, of making Joe Biden a one-term president. But the Republican Party has some very significant weaknesses with public opinion that they're going to need to address. Let's transport immigrants to Utah instead of overcrowded cities. Let me tell you what, Utah would probably for the most part, be happy to have them. I find this issue a really difficult one, because the reality is that these communities that get saddled with the majority of the illegal immigrants coming across, especially some of these places in Texas, it hurts their community. And you can see even in the progressive cities, when like massive numbers of illegal immigrants are coming, like in New York, they're saying like it is taxing our infrastructure and stuff like that, right? Well, part of it is because you have so much infrastructure to do it, right? Because the thing is Utah is probably one of the last places that the immigrants want to go, because there's not going to be as much support for them here. But the politics and everything else like that is that people in Utah would encourage them to come. So whatever. I'm kind of like, I'm okay with having them in here, but then again, it's like, yes, but there are negative consequences to it for, like, as people. I love to have them here, but as a economic impact, it's not a good economic impact from everything I've seen. Utah would better people itself into a third world. Yes, they are. They would. People in Utah are extremely vulnerable to virtue signaling politics. Let me tell you what, man. When Donald Trump came along, it was interesting to see that evolution in people and even in myself, because I was definitely when my focus was mostly DJing and like building my Facebook up, it was absolutely like I would say certain things on Facebook that was mostly like, oh, I have these followers and it's important for me to say this particular thing so that people know like the correct way to act, or what, I would make the kind of tweets that Obama would make, right? And I was pretty decent at it. Like, I knew how to get the likes and everything. Didn't help the larger thing, because Facebook basically screwed everything so that you couldn't use it for promotion. But I digress. It was working. And then Donald Trump came along, and all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, this is dumb. It doesn't accomplish anything. And I think that people in Utah, like, largely after he got elected, kind of moved that way and was like, oh yeah, actually, like, saying all of this stuff in public just to make people think you look, think better of you is dumb. Right? Utahns are extremely vulnerable to the virtue signaling thing, man. Very vulnerable. Well, it's not. Listen, I mean, when you say it that way, you kind of make it seem like that there's something about the race or something like that. It's not that. It's the Western ideology, right? Because ultimately, America is based on the premise of that our country is about a set of ideals, rather than our country is about a certain ethnicity or historical group or something like that, right? And so, from that perspective, America has always been to some extent about, like, yes, we have lots of different groups of people come in, and we want to have new groups of people come in and be accepted and so forth, right? But that was always with the understanding that the country was still based on a constitution, right? The problem that we're having right now is that all of a sudden we have a large swath of people that don't actually believe in the Constitution. that either don't understand it or like don't really genuinely believe in it, right? Because in the 90s, there was like no question you had freedom of speech and that you could say whatever you wanted on the internet and all of this. And then in such a short time, it's like it's switched, and there's this section of people that just like straight up don't believe it at all. And it was like, did they ever believe in it? What the heck is going on here? You know? And yeah, if I would love to see, I'd love to continue to see immigration in line with whatever is deemed to be economically effective, because you get too much and it's a bad thing, right? But, we can make some metrics up and say what is like the optimal number of immigrants that the United States can handle a year. And we'd love to have them, as long as it's not about like, these are people that don't believe in the Constitution and want to change that, right? Okay with having as many people, as long as it still means that the Constitution is the Constitution and that's what the country is based on, right? But I don't think it's like white people. I think that it's like an engineered opinion created by the media and so forth, that people aren't thinking things through and are being tricked into supporting things that are really to their detriment and really against what they truly believe. It was like I was saying with abortion, right? I think it's unusual to have 43% of people say abortion should be allowed in all cases, because almost everybody would say, I don't think that abortion is good. I think the vast majority of people would say that we should try and, have as few abortions as possible. Nobody thinks that abortion is like an objectively good, like that in and of itself. Like there's the argument that like, well, people have it and there's certain problems, and so it's better to have that as an outlet. But I don't think that anybody thinks that like abortion is good, right? And very, very few people would say that you should be allowed to abort a baby in 9 months, like when it's like a viable baby and it could be born. Very, very few people would say that. But the issue is framed and everything is kind of manipulated to push people in towards a certain favored opinion. And they do the same thing with immigration as like, if we presented it as like, here's the empirical evidence about what would be the most effective immigration policy in terms of number of people that we bring in and how we choose how those people are selected, right? And here are the economic consequences, and here's how it would affect you economically. I think people would have a different opinion of it, right? But it's not presented that way. It's just presented as there's these poor people and they need to come in here because, life is so hard for them where they live. And this feigned empathy. They don't give a shit about those people, man. They just want more voters. And then what do? They bring all these people in here. They don't have any way to take care of them. They basically are treated like slaves, like slave labor, forced to work like the most menial minimum wage jobs. It's disgusting, right? And then what happens is the places that those people came from are hurt as well, because they're losing all their good people. It's sad. See how it works? You can say that the fact that people gather in closed communities is a bad thing for integration. I don't know. I don't know how you can even say that that's like even comes in the conversation right now when people in America are so distant with their neighbors anyways. Whatever. Well, those treasuries jumped all the way back up to their highs after a really significant amount of volume trading down at the bottom. You can't take non-English speaking uneducated people and pump them. No. But what I'm saying, listen, here's the way that it works, okay? So if you are here in the United States illegally, you're limited on the jobs that you can work, basically because any like corporation is going to be really concerned about being found to be hiring illegal labor. And so they're going to ask you for your social security number, and they're going to check those sorts of things, right? So if you're an illegal immigrant, you're basically only able to work jobs where it's kind of done. So like one example would be like construction. Okay, a lot of the time, I don't know if it's like this right now, but for a while it used to be that there would just be a group of guys standing in front of the Home Depot, and then you would come by in your truck and say, okay, I want you, and you, and then you would, they would work for you for that day or whatever. And that's how they hired people. And then, well, yeah, it's still like that. I'm only saying I don't know if that's what it is like right now, just because I don't know if there's a whole lot of building, right? Okay, but under normal circumstances, that's what's going on. And then you pay them in cash, and there's not like a payroll and all of that sort of stuff, right? And when you get into that kind of a situation, the people that are willing to hire in those situations are also willing to exploit their workers. And so you end up with minimum wage jobs. So like when I was a Spanish speaking missionary, I was talking to these people. There's this one guy that he had like the hookup. I don't know what the deal was, because he was like the nicest guy. But he had some sort of like gang connection or something like that, because he got deported once, and this was like the third time that this had happened. He was literally back the next day talking about how he got back over and everything. Like he just called his friend up and they took him across. Like it was that easy. Literally like the next day he was back, right? And he had a nice job. He had a nice job in a bakery. Like a bakery, that was a nice job. It was like making, like at the time, I think that there was like $10 an hour, which was like really nice for illegal immigrant, right? But most of these people that come over, they work in construction or agriculture and they get paid minimum wage. And it's not fair, because most people, if they were legal, you wouldn't be able to get away with paying them so little. Is the gist of it. If they were not illegal, you wouldn't be able to get away with paying them so little. Remember that next time that they say, well, we need people that are willing to work those jobs. Disgusting. It's disgusting, guys. Yeah, it's going to be all like small businesses and stuff, right? Like there was this other group of guys that I remember, and they had jobs at Target, and it was like, whoa, wait, how did you get jobs at Target? And then they showed us the fake IDs. And they had just paid for a really nice fake, and that was like identity theft, right? Like they were using somebody else's social security number to work at Target. Paying a fair wage is more beneficial. The savings is in the taxes you don't have to pay. Maybe, but I tell you, when I lived in the farming areas and I saw that on the farming areas, man, they were not paying them fair for what they were doing, man. It was not fair. Leo says bakery is a nice job. I don't know if he's saying that it is or if he's asking if it is. Maybe they're combining cobalt. Dude, that's another one that like, it's just to get like the hypocrisy of it all. So I'm always kind of feel like when we talk about those things that it's like a whataboutism. But it's just everywhere you go, when you see these people virtue signaling, you can look over here and you can see how basically all of their wealth is premised on exploiting a group of people. It's just that it's like a group of people overseas that nobody knows or cares about. Like the video that I've seen coming out of some of these third world country mines, where they're doing artesian mining for rare earth minerals is, ugh, awful. I can't believe that stuff is going on. Nobody does anything about it. That's just horrific crimes going on there. Americans whine no matter how much you give them, you know. But I'm just saying, they don't have a whole lot of bargaining power, right? It upset me greatly to see how the people were living, because they were basically being treated like slave labor. Isn't what I had seen. Shouldn't have admit that one in public, Uzi. Get a lot of people that are legal. Well, that would probably be like super great, right? Yeah. And like here's the thing, I would love to see all these people be legal, but you have to make them legal without creating an incentive for more people to break the law, right? You have to close the door first, then we can worry about the people that are here, make them legal. I think we should, because otherwise they're slaves, and it's disgusting to me. Yeah, because then there's that whole thing about illegal immigrants that are, you know, pay taxes and stuff. Because it's set up for you to be able to do that. Came back to the middle of the road. I have a hard time talking about the immigration thing just because I feel like somebody's probably always going to be upset about what I say about illegal immigration. But I feel like sometimes I have to, because I do have a perspective on it that's a little bit more than what the average American has, you know? Because I can go into any suburban city in America, you give me an afternoon and I'll find you illegal immigrants. Easy to find. And then you can go and see what the kind of the conditions that they're living in and why the conditions are like that, and then you can ask yourself if it's okay what we're doing. I could call it. Doesn't mind. Oh man. The craziest thing that ever happened to me as a missionary was this guy came up to us that was drunk, and he was from Michoacan, and oh my gosh, it was just like this crazy thing. And he was like, here, like I'll show this, that's not my real name, I'll show you what my real name is. And this guy literally pulls out like 6 different fake IDs hidden on him. Like he had one in his sock. It was so crazy, man. And he wanted us to baptize him, and I was like, no, you have to go through the lessons, and we set up a date for you. He's like, no, just pour water on me right now, I'll be fine. Oh man, that was such a weird day, man. You know, well, yeah, I don't think that we have as much illegal immigration. I think that we have a lot more than many states, but we definitely don't have as much as like Florida and Texas, right? Okay, so I'm just hearing on my news squawk something to note for tomorrow, because Biden and their congressional Republicans are supposed to get together tomorrow. Apparently that won't be happening until 4 o'clock Eastern time. Okay, yeah, that's It happens a lot in Utah. There's a lot of kids that start home lawn care businesses too. But yeah, like I said, because of our proximity to the American Southwest, and because we're kind of like the crossroads of the West, we get plenty of illegal immigration in Utah. I think most of that lives in one section of town that I'm not over by anymore, so I can't see. So it kind of seems to me like in the down, like since COVID, that a lot of that has changed a little bit. Oh, I'm sure. You would have to pay people a lot more, probably. There are not very many people that are willing to work a job like that. Which is kind of, this is something that I find really interesting, is there are certain jobs that like you can actually become extremely skilled at, and everybody thinks that they're skillless labor, but actually, like, after you've been doing it for years, you can get really good at it. And cleaning is one of them. So you'll see it come out in these guys that clean luxury cars, right? But yeah, there is like, you can get good at cleaning and having like the attention to detail and getting every nook and cranny and knowing the right chemicals to use and all that. Like, there is a real skill behind it. That because it's so hard to show to people, like, hey, this actually does take skill. You actually are getting your money worth by paying. It's really hard to actually get your value out of it, but my brother is a painter in California, and many of them pay cash only, and when the IRS asks them to provide the SSN of the number, they make one up. Well, like I said, the way the taxes, I forget the exact details, but the way that the taxes are set up is basically so that illegal workers can still pay taxes. You had to guess what the average cleaner who works for us makes? Well, I don't know for you. I think industry-wide, it's probably under $10 though. Maybe you pay your people a lot better than that. Actually, I could see it being 15. I could see it being 15, 16, 17. If you give me a number over 20 though, I'll be really impressed. If you give me a number over 20, I'll be impressed. 1750, okay. But would you say that you pay more, less, or equal to the competition? Yeah, there you go. We're well above our competition. Most cleaning companies pay per job. Oh. Would you actually save more money on labor doing it per job? Depends. Okay, so I knew this place. When this was like in the middle of nowhere, man. Like the nearest town, which was about 15 minutes away, was a 15,000 person town. And that was considered a large town. Like they had a Walmart and crap. Okay. This was the middle of nowhere. And like the nearest city was like Kansas City was like 3 or 4 hours away. Okay. This was out there. Okay. And there was this member there that owned that they had money, man. They had serious money, man. And they had this kid that was the most ripped man I had ever seen in my life. Holy crap. Like, you want to talk like alpha male guy, because basically he had to come back from going to school because he was the ladies liked him too much. And he would do 1,000 crunches a day, and he had like the washboard abs. It was crazy. Guy was so ripped. And these guys, they owned a pallet building business. And people got paid by the pallet. So they got really quick, like they could tear down a whole pallet in like less than 20 seconds or something like that. And the people that worked hard made like the amount that you get paid per pallet is like retarded, right? But it was like you'd make like $3 per pallet. But then if you do like, you know, doesn't take very many pallets per hour to get you above, you know, to be making $20-30 an hour. There were some people that made tons from doing that. It was, I mean, it'd destroy your body, but they made tons. Is your jigsaw working fine? No, it is not. The journalytics seems to be down. You have a sign driver. That's interesting. Yours took ages to load. Maybe there's a problem with the licensing servers too. Let's see here. I checked. I was seeing other people. Jigsaw took a long time to launch and the connection isn't stable. Yeah, I don't know why this would be, but I think that Journalytics is just having some issues today. You know, maybe they're being attacked or something. Who knows? Could be any number of reasons why the connectivity could be bad. Why are they doing this to us? Okay, yeah. Immediately assume the worst. Thank you. You might believe we've had that whole conversation. That's only been 15 minutes. I don't think the treasuries are going to do much more today. I think we kind of only missed the only good move. So there was only like $10-15 out of that available. I think I'm okay with that sitting on it today. While I'm thinking about it, because I'll forget to mention it, but just want to point out we have a Discord. It's a really good Discord, and I created a guided discussion forum. So the discussion right now is about when the next rate cut will be. So we have a forum where only the administrators can create the topics, but then everybody can comment in the comments. We can have really detailed discussions on, you know, topics that I think will be really beneficial to people in understanding what's going on and so forth. So I really appreciate you guys. Go and give us your thoughts there in the guided discussion forum off the Discord. The ranges on indexes look quite meh. Well, I mean, they're selling it. It's selling, but you're right. It's only like $10, 10 points so far today, which is pretty small for the E-mini these days, but I mean, the crazy thing about all of this with the indexes is that like 10 points is, you know, you catch a 10-point winner on even a micro contract. That's great money, right? But like there's so much noise in between there and everything. Is your stop gonna hold? Like those sorts of things. It's pretty. It's really the randomness of it that's so problematic, isn't it? And when you look at the range of those candles, right, you can immediately see that's like a lot of retail traders are going to get stopped out if they try trading that. Because the guy that came in and is like, I'm going to swing short, and they sell it here and they're planning on holding it all day, that guy is probably okay. But all the scalpers in between, it's just a shit show. Technical term. Did any of you guys on the E-mini pull something out of it today? I feel I've been thinking about this this morning, I guess it was. But one of the things that I have found has really benefited my trading has been being in a secure relationship already. If you're not in a secure relationship, that can really hurt your trading, especially if you're like the anxious type. But like another thing is like if your spouse is like really against you trading, that really doesn't help. Like, that really doesn't help. And it's and like it's one of those things where it's like if the spouse is like really against it, it can really hurt. But if your spouse like believes in you, then it can like really help, right? So like I'm an ADHD person, and one of the problems is that it's difficult to internally motivate with ADHD. So sometimes you can come to these things where it's like, you know, the thing that needs to be done, everything is ready for you to just start working on the thing. Once you start working on the thing, you'll probably be fine, but it's like you feel paralyzed. It's so hard to get started, and every little thing that comes up will distract you and keep you from doing it. It's so hard. But if you have a person there that's there to motivate you to do the thing, it's so much easier. If you can get the motivation externally, right? And so this is one of the most powerful aspects of relationships that I don't think people realize, is that when your spouse is actively encouraging you on something, like it really helps you perform. It really helps you perform. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, we can't replace a spouse, but we certainly should be a little bit more affirming to people, you know, give people the encouragement when they're doing well and when they're going in the right direction. My wife knows that my trading is off limits for discussion. I don't think your partner, well, like kind of what I'm getting at is like something that I will see happen is like a guy will decide, okay, I have been thinking about it and I've decided that trading is going to be my thing. And then the spouse is like, I don't know about that. And they read about it and they're like, no, this is not a good idea. Right. And if the spouse thinks that it's not a good idea and they don't believe in you and your ability to do the trading, it's like it can be very detrimental to the trading. You know, like if they're going to be vocally oppose it, if your family, if like your parents and your siblings think it's crazy, then that's fine, because then you're just going to want to show them up. Okay. But when it's your spouse, your significant other, kind of hurts. You tell a person not to do it and the person will do it on purpose. Does your wife support 100% or has some reservations? I don't think that she has any reservations. I think that she just doesn't care about it at all. Like, I think that she just has zero interest in the subject. Like I think that if I was making millions of dollars a month from it or something crazy like that, she would still not care at all. It's like it's his thing and he seems to know it and seems to be pretty decent about, you know, with it, and it doesn't affect me at all and I just don't care. That's her attitude to it. But she's still encourages, you know, when I come in like, oh, had a good day, then I still get the praise for it and whatnot, right? That's the thing that I feel like that we in our society though are like underutilizing with the relationships is the ability, you know, if you have one partner that stays at home and one partner that's working, partner that stays at home can really be encouraging the one that's working to do their best and get the raise or whatever the deal is, right? And I think that there's a lot of people out there that, you know, they were successful in business or whatever it was that they did, and it would not have happened without the encouragement of their spouse, right? But that doesn't mean that your spouse has to care about trading, because probably they won't. Probably you have to be a really weird person to like be super interested in trading in the markets and stuff, right? So most of the cases they're going to be supporting you just because it's you, but really like that's kind of the way that it should be anyways, right? But that's part of why I created a lot of content to try and give people an idea of like, is this really actually for me? So that you understand what you're getting into and you understand like if this is something for you, so that you don't have to play those questions in your mind, right? That's what I want. If you're the person you're just looking for the money, then I think that there's better things for you to do, especially if you're young. I don't understand why there's all these kids that are like, I'm willing to hustle, and it's like, so why don't you go into investment banking or tech? You know, become a tech founder. Like that's where the real money is. If that's what you're looking to do, then you should go into that, not day trading. You're young and you're still young enough to be able to start working at something like that, right? But you know, you have the interest in it, and you kind of have the personality for it. Then you can just go full bore into it. Okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I know that, you know, it's hard and I may never see some benefit from it, but that's who I am, because I just enjoy it so much. Right now you stand a chance, and now you can go and you can tell your family and your spouse, you know, this is my hobby and that's what I truly enjoy, and I'm fully invested in it, for better or for worse, right? And you get people that understand that, and then they can encourage you, and you can have a really powerful thing there, right? Autistic people especially, you need support. It's a different part of the brain. I need to edit. I've been spending all of my work energy on my yard instead of the stream, and I want to get back to doing it for the stream, but I just haven't had time to finish writing this next video. Yeah, I'm building a new PC. I've been saving up, and I'm a little bit unsure about how I want to spend. I think the next thing that I want to do is get, after the desk is finished, is get a new case and get the computer rack mounted and stuff. But sometimes I kind of like, yeah, that's a lot of money for something that I already, you know, shouldn't I first spend it on the things that would be like new and improvements and stuff? But I don't know. First thing I need to do, I guess, is the desk. When I have the desk, then maybe I'll know. When I have the desk and all of the cables are fixed and everything, that'll make me a lot happier. Right now, I'm mostly just concerned about a child coming in here and like killing themselves in that rat's nest of cables. I need to come back over here. I've barely heard a peep from the news squawk today. It's a slow news day. Micro Center got good chairs. That's another one, is I should probably save up for a chair, because this chair has a stitch on it that's going out. I tell you what, I've put way too much effort into this freaking desk that we're making. Oh my gosh, last night. We need to paint the metal. The legs are made out of metal. We have to paint the metal to prevent corrosion and so forth. And so I did tons and tons of research on the metal, and like all of the products that people were like looking for and stuff. Apparently there used to be products for painting metal that like aren't around anymore. That like they were too toxic or something, and people stopped selling them. So I just ended up with the Rust-Oleum, but it's like hammered Rust-Oleum, so it's supposed to like leave a finish that looks like you've been hitting it with a hammer afterwards. So I was concerned because some people said that it didn't get as hard as it's supposed to, because you want it to feel like metal afterwards. And so we tried putting it on. We'll see in a week how hard it is, but we put it on, and oh my gosh, it is so cool to watch it. It is so cool to watch it turn into the hammer. It's so weird. Okay, would C# be a good alternative to Python and JavaScript? Sure. So let me put it this way. Just about any programming language that you want to learn would probably, as a beginner, would probably be fine except for C++ and Rust. Okay. And then the other caveat is I would not go into JavaScript unless your intention is to build things with JavaScript. I would only go into JavaScript. You can start with JavaScript as a language, but JavaScript is pretty specific to you want to learn JavaScript, that you only want to start with that one if, building dynamic front-end websites is reason you're going into programming, okay? But when you get into C++ and Rust, the problem with those languages is that the memory management and the structures that you need to do the memory management are such a difficult part of like the programming that you have to know a lot to even do some of the most basic things. So those languages don't make very good languages for beginners, because when you're a beginner, you want to be learning like basic code organization and sorting algorithms and data structures. That is the basic stuff that I would be focused on, right? C++ and Rust kind of distracts from those fundamental bits, right? And JavaScript is just a little bit weird enough that, so like if you learn C# and you get good at C#, you should be pretty capable of going around to just about any other language and figuring them out, right? If you get really good at JavaScript, there are so many weird nuances there in JavaScript that just don't exist in other languages that it might not help you as much. Hackathons. Maybe I should get into that stuff again. I don't know. There's so many things that I would love to do, and there's just not enough time, and I just don't always have the energy to do it either, fortunately. I've got this book, and I've got a couple of job trainings that work related job trainings that they've been encouraging that I'm doing. But then the next thing that I have behind that is getting more into Rust. I wouldn't mind switching over to a job where I programmed in Rust. It's just, there's lots of nice things about it. Well, the whole problem with JavaScript is that JavaScript was kind of created as a hack to do one very narrow thing, and then it just what ended up being useful enough that they just kept expanding. That's why things like TypeScript exist, right? Is that they realized, oh, yes, having types would be very, very useful. We should probably have it be a typed language. And so somebody just, forked off and made TypeScript. But it was not like designed that way from the beginning up. And so there's just so many. I tell you what, man, when you get into the JavaScript nerds, are the weirdest of programming nerds. But there are some people that they can show you these things where, like, if you do 1 + 1 in quote marks, it equals, 3. But then if you do it the other way around, it doesn't. It just equals a string, or there's all these strange situations where, with the way that JavaScript and types work and everything, it's just weird. There's too many nuances that are specific to JavaScript that would only matter in JavaScript and every other language doesn't care about. And then, yes, on top of that, JavaScript as a standalone language is kind of like useless because every browser like uses it differently, and there's all these other things. So basically, if you're doing JavaScript, you end up using a framework like React. React seems to be the one that kind of gained the most adoption, although I wouldn't say that it's dominant enough to say that it's like for sure the one, but that's the one that I used and that I would recommend. But you don't program in JavaScript without a framework like React, and then you want to use an events-based framework to manage things. Because otherwise, trying to manage all of the different little things that can happen in your GUI is a complete nightmare. So, like I said, learning JavaScript is a lot more learning JavaScript and React. ECB's lane, there's still momentum in food and core inflation. Kind of popping through here, seeing if, because we've been babbling, not we, just me. I've been babbling for a while, wondering if there's any other kind of stories. Not much going on today, guys. Yeah, here's a comment from John Philippe a few days ago that I missed. Black-Scholes formula has a peculiar status in modern science. It is simultaneously extraordinarily important and crowned with a Nobel Prize in economics, and yet woefully flawed. It is always difficult to row against the flow, but as I have repeatedly, and I admit rather unsuccessfully, argued over the last 30 years, I think far too much intellectual capital has been devoted to both refining and fudging the Black-Scholes model in a desperate attempt to fit option smiles and price and hedge ever more exotic portfolios of derivatives. In my humble opinion, Post Black-Scholes research should have recognized that markets are not and cannot be complete and abandoned the perfect replication fallacy and the obfuscating risk-neutral probability mantra. Responsible financial engineering should be about understanding how markets really work, the role of impact and feedback loops that generate non-Gaussian fat tails, and estimating true risks rather than comfortably preserving the convenient tenets of the Black-Scholes world and turning a blind eye to its glaring inadequacies. Of course, the theory is mathematically beautiful and intellectually alluring. The cornerstone of its derivation, Ito's lemma, is deceptively simple and in fact sweeps all subtleties under the rug. It is therefore much easier to teach the perfect world of Black-Scholes rather than trying to confront all the messy aspects of real price time series, imperfect hedging, non-unique prices, etc. But everything that is really interesting about options markets would not even exist in the Black-Scholes world. This is actually my main pet peeve. The intuition that is built from Black-Scholes theory is often scathingly misleading and deceptive. Of course, models are always simplifications and approximations of reality, but in my view, it is crucial that models should allow one to understand how the world really works rather than make us believe in a fantasy. Reality should always supersede elegance or convenience, as German and Wilmot wrote in their Modeler's Oath Manifesto. I will never sacrifice reality for elegance without explaining why I have done so. Oh, that's great. And then he has a piece about it on Wilmot magazine. That's cool. High quant news. During my master's degree, I read 65 books on quant finance. Most of them were useless. But here are 4. Linear and Nonlinear Programming by David G. Leuenberger. Pricing Derivative Securities, Interest Rate Models, Theory and Practice. I haven't heard of that particular book. I'll look it up. Okay. You know what? Now would be a good time to go and take a look at the quant finance section. Interesting. High frequency anticipatory trading and its influences. In this paper, the interaction between a large informed trader and a high frequency trader who can anticipate the former's incoming order are studied in an extended Kyle's model. Oh, I want to read this. Equilibrium under various specific situations are discussed. Relying on the speed advantage, HFT always trades in the same direction as the large order in advance. However, whether or not she provides liquidity depends on her inventory aversion, the prediction accuracy, and the market attractiveness. She may supply liquidity back to act as a front runner or continue to take it away. In this case, we call her a small IT. Small IT always harms the large trader, while frontrunner may benefit her. Besides, we find surprisingly that increasing the noise in HFT's signal may in fact decrease IT's profit, although providing liquidity, a frontrunner may harm IT more than a small IT. Okay. So that's something that I should read because I understand it, but I don't know if the actual takeaways from it are very significant. Recurrent neural network based on parameter estimation of Hawk's model on high frequency financial data. Optimal output long-term memory cell for high frequency trading forecasting. This study examines the use of recurrent neural network for estimating the parameters of Hawk's model based on high-frequency financial data, and subsequently for computing volatility. Neural networks have shown promising results in various fields, and interest in finance is also growing. Our approach demonstrates significantly faster computational performance compared to traditional maximum likelihood estimation methods, while yielding comparable accuracy in both simulation and empirical studies. Furthermore, we demonstrate the application of this method for real-time volatility measurement, enabling the continuous estimation of financial volatility as new price data keeps coming from the market. Okay, I kind of lost what I got bored. I got bored and lost track of what I was reading halfway through that. Too ADHD to read that today. This other one, though, it will be worth reading later today. So I'm wondering if it makes any if it ends up giving a suggestion on which way we, if we are front running, should try and trade it. Excuse me. I'm gonna check zero hedge here again. Oh, that's right. We have CPI and PPI later this week. The neoliberal globalization king is dead. Long live the mercantilist industrial policy king. Oh, okay. Going back to like straight out mercantilism would be a bad thing for the world, right? Maybe we can have a system where everybody benefits and not just like one group at the expense of another group. Thank you. The ones where everybody benefits are usually more profitable in the long run anyways. But that doesn't help us very much to keep ourselves going for another 10 minutes. Treasuries are still up at their heights. They didn't break through though. That's kind of interesting. Oh boy. There was this thing where there was a transathlete won a bicycling race, and so they said they were looking into it, and then apparently people got upset and they're immediately backtracking. Oh yeah, I saw that one. You know, I didn't read that one just because it's freaking zero hedge, right? It is an important and useful thing that some of these central banks, and I think they were saying that Singapore was like the largest one. Sorry, where's the thing? Singapore, China, Turkey, India are the ones that are really doing it. Well, Tajikistan, UAE, Croatia, Russia, Cambodia, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan are all selling. but in the end, that ends up being a net buy. But this whole thing about like a gold standard is like I'm immediately like, well, that's crazy talk. It is interesting that China's building as much of theirs as they can, but I'm pretty positive that they're not going to turn into a gold standard because they wouldn't be enough to manage all of their funding needs. But I mean, I think you can remember when this all started, like in 2020, we had this one guy on here that was like super bullish gold. And I was like, I don't know if it's actually going anywhere though, man. Like not super, but now I think we can be bullish on gold. Now I think we, it's a little bit late, but, and it sure came back fast, didn't it? Right. But you could be bullish gold now. You know what I think would be fun is going up in the mountains and panning for gold. Maybe, I don't think I would do it like regularly, but like maybe just once. And if I was able to find a good nugget, that'd be cool. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden my eyes have been watering a ton here. This market makes you sad. No, I think that it's just maybe the dog moving around or something. I'm super allergic to something, man. I think it's part of it is because we haven't been taking we washed the dog, and then yesterday we like combed him really, really good. And then we got so much off of that dog. I was like, come on, this has been everywhere. That's not going to help me. Yeah, so it's good. But I've also been outside a lot, and it's, it's full pollen season right now, so. And I'm allergic to basically everything, so that didn't help either. It really frustrates me that it's like so dry still. Oh, we're actually supposed to get a decent amount of rain this week, but for us it's been pretty dry. And yet still so much pollen out there. Still so much pollen. let's take back a look here. Time to start wrapping things up. So today, Monday, not a whole lot. We had a little bit of a decline, but just came right back up. Now we're actually pushing the other side. I have to say that this move down here, like the selling looked awfully extreme, but like look, it's been nothing but buying since. Gotta be said, there's like some extreme positioning in the treasuries still here, so I think that kind of makes it feel like you gotta be careful about these declines because they can just get sucked back up so quickly, right? E-mini down, but just a tan. And nothing else really moving all that much. Natural gas, the biggest winner today at 5.54%, and ZB, the biggest loser. So I would say, even though the E-mini is down a little bit, it's just like a little bit of a retracement from the overnight. So overall, it looks like things are mildly, very, very mildly positive today. And but we do have a week ahead of us here. So if we were to just come back over here to the Forex Factory, it's a great way to look at the numbers. So nothing too big tomorrow, although we do have FOMC member Jefferson speaking and Williams speaking much later in the day. FOMC financial stability report later today. I don't know if that will move the market. Probably won't move the markets, but that'll still be worth a read. Then Wednesday we got CPI, and Thursday we got PPI, and Friday we got import prices and University of, sorry, is it Michigan? I always forget. Yep, Michigan. That's right. Consumer sentiment. So I think we could have some decent flows today, or sorry, this week, and maybe not just based on the economic numbers too. We might start, because there's some positions out there and stuff that may have to start resolving themselves soon. So we'll see where this goes. It's, you know, and then after that we're back into the transition period, and then it gets really kind of weird. So because then we start to transition into summer trading, which is like, summer trading really sucks sometimes, right? But who knows, maybe this summer will be another like really eventful one. We'll see. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, oh, and by the way, make sure to check out the Discord after we're in there, and we have a guided discussion thread. Go and leave your comment there on the deck guided discussion. Let's get something going over there. So I'll see you guys in Discord and tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.